Hello, good morning. Today we are starting um, week 12 of Spanish Immersion Kindergarten. So I'm not going to talk too much today about what we are currently working on. I might do a little recap at the end, but today I wanted to record specifically for you all about my behavior management that I use in the classroom. So let me preface this by saying I have many forms of behavior management that I have used in the past. And overall, I think I stick to basically my foundation no matter what school setting I am in. So currently, I am in a school where we use PBIS. And along with PBIS, we have two social and emotional curriculums that we use. And then, of course, I have just my own teaching philosophy that I use within my classroom to manage behaviors. That being said, we're going to go into what PBIS looks like in my building, how I adapt it to my classroom, a brief overview of the two curriculums that we use building wide and how I adapt that to my classroom, and then a little bit of my early childhood education curriculum that I used with my own children. I have 5 children of my own and a bonus child, and I've used the same logic with them as a mom. So we'll go over all of that, and then if the video hasn't gotten too long at this point, we will go into what we're doing week 12 of dual language. Support my students' emotional and behavior development. Okay. I do combine several frameworks: PBIS, the second step curriculum, the zones of regulation, love and logic, and conscious discipline. Now, love and logic and conscious discipline come from my years as an early childhood educator. And these are the same strategies that I use with my own 6 children at home. Okay. Now, together, all of these work to create a positive, nurturing environment where my students can thrive academically, feel safe, and connect emotionally, which are all very important within the dual language classroom. We are taking a big risk with kindergartners coming into a classroom for the first time, a lot of them. So not only the first experience with being in a schoolroom, but also the first experience at being brave with a new language. So let's talk about PBIS. PBIS, I will preface, it is not my favorite. I don't know if it's what's the best for every classroom, but as a teacher with a counseling degree, if it is what my school building is asking me to do, I'm going to follow those routines and procedures. So PBIS is a positive behavioral intervention and support. It is a school-wide approach that promotes positive behaviors and sets clear expectations for all of our students. In our classroom, we emphasize the main values of be safe, be kind, be engaged, and be respectful or be responsible. So those are our 4 pillars: safe, kind, engaged, and responsible. And I make sure these expectations are clear and easy for my students to understand. At the beginning of the school year, there are grade level lessons that are run by the kindergarten teachers, the counselors, and the school principals about those expectations and what they look like in the classroom, on the playground, in the hallway, in the lunchroom, and during specials times. So again, this is building wide. Now within our classroom, when we see our students displaying these behaviors of safe, engaged, responsible, and kind, we can reinforce that with good positive feedback, and also awarding them a TIMBY ticket. And now a TIMBY ticket is a purple ticket that looks like this. I'm not going to show all of it down here at the bottom. It says safe, responsible, engaged, and kind. You write the name of the student who gave it to them and circle which one of the pillars they were displaying, and they can save up those TIMBY tickets for different awards. They can kind of cash out their TIMBY tickets. Now in kindergarten, we can cash out TIMBY tickets for things like bring a stuffy to school, bring a show and tell item, be the line leader, use secret supplies, help in the lunchroom, a prize box, trinkets. I try not to do prize box too often, just because that's something that costs money. But anyways, moving on with that, this reinforces the school values. This is a great praise, verbal praise system. I don't typically hand out TIMBY tickets until second quarter, because I want to show them that verbal praise and that verbal feedback, and just reinforce the expectation school-wide before I start rewarding students who really haven't had time to practice and learn from the routines and the procedures. So they definitely will earn them for using kind words, pushing in a chair, helping students clean up something that they didn't play with, remembering to turn in their folder in the morning, or giving me a dismissal reminder, little things that they go above and beyond to do things in the classroom. So now the second step curriculum, I don't teach that in my classroom. It gets taught in the English classroom, but I am expected to use the vocabulary here within our classroom. So the second step curriculum is about helping students manage their emotions and develop social skills. So each week there is a different skill. It helps them identify their feelings, problem solving, practice empathy. We use the second step lessons to guide students through real life scenarios. For example, we might role play how to handle frustration when something is hard, or what to do when we feel overexcited and we need to calm down. So using second step gives students the tools to help them when their different emotions come up throughout the school day. I like to reinforce these skills with the reminders, with the picture cards, with the cue cards. They have a variety of songs that our students love to sing. And sometimes we use those songs kind of whole group to help us calm down or listen. I think the second step skills are amazing for when we're working whole group, to kind of set the tone for what your body should look like in a whole group lesson. But then again, they're also really great in small groups where maybe you have a few students who are really focused and then a few students who are being kind of goofy and silly, and we can talk about how to keep working even when there's distractions around us. So again, second step is more of a social emotional curriculum that we use. The strategies that the students learn just help them manage themselves throughout the day. I think these are lifelong skills that they are learning from second step. It's different from PBI. Okay, now the second step lessons, like I said, they can travel with a student well into other years of school. There are definitely even skills that I could use myself as an adult, especially an adult who struggles with ADHD. Okay, now zones of regulation are definitely one of my favorite. I learned about the zones of regulation probably about 6 years ago, so I've been using them in my classroom for a very long time. Moving them into the Spanish classroom has been a really great choice. And not only does it help us manage our emotions and help us check in with each other throughout the day, it's a really great way to introduce the color words, which is important in kindergarten. So the Zones of Regulation is a program that helps students identify their emotions by categorizing them into 4 color-coded zones. The blue zone might mean feeling sad, tired, and bored. The green zone is calm and ready to learn. The yellow zone means they're feeling excited, frustrated, or even a little bit silly or nervous. And the red zone is when someone is really angry and out of control. I encourage my students to check in with their zones throughout the day. For example, if a child is in the yellow zone, we practice some deep breathing or counting to help them calm down. And this builds self-awareness and self-regulation. And it really empowers kids to manage their emotions. Giving them names for their emotions and ways to regulate really helps meltdown mode. It can stop a meltdown completely. Because most of the time, what we find is that students just need to identify the emotion that they're feeling and are not sure of how to overcome it. So once we're giving all of those feelings that they're having inside a name and what to do with it, the meltdown sort of dissipates, which is just amazing, especially with so many students nowadays not being able to regulate their emotions or name their emotions or verbalize how they are really truly feeling. So the zones of regulations, definitely my favorite. So many stories to go along with this, so many read alouds, so many songs that we can sing within the classroom. And again, these are skills that will go with them to other grade levels and even at home or at church or social events. These are skills that can carry over into other places outside of the classroom. And that's one of the reasons why it is one of my favorites over the PBIS system. Now, Love and Logic is my personal teaching philosophy. Check out the book, Google it, Love and Logic. It is an approach that focuses on building relationships through empathy, but also setting boundaries with a specific amount of kindness. And that is one of the things when a student is struggling with behavior, instead of using a punishment or a consequence, we can ask questions to lead them to better choices. And ultimately, for me, I love this because there is no incentive. I don't have to bribe them. I don't have to reward them. The reward is internal. So if a student disrupts the class, I might say, I noticed that you're having trouble focusing. How can we fix this together? This approach empowers the student to make their own choices and to learn from their consequences. Love and Logic builds trust and teaches kids responsibility in a really compassionate way. And again, this can transfer into other classrooms. This can transfer into their real life at home. And it is very much internal. I am all about them just changing internally and not just making a change because they want the visual reward or the tangible reward of the Timby ticket or a trinket. So that is my personal philosophy and approach. Now, the reason why I love Love and Logic and Conscious Discipline is because they mix together very well. Now, Conscious Discipline is more of like an emotional connection for self-regulation. The teacher uses hand signals and encourages deep breathing, which is second step, deep breathing. Zones of regulation, deep breathing. Love and Logic, deep breathing. We can overcome a lot of issues that we have in the classroom if we can stop, calm our bodies down, and then talk about the situations that we're going through. Okay, Conscious Discipline was created by Dr. Becky Bailey. It's all about supporting a classroom community through making connections and having emotional regulation. I used to teach my students self-regulation skills like taking deep breaths or using a safe place to calm down. Now, in my classroom this year, I do not have specifically a safe place. I don't have a safe or a calm down zone. I just am very good about asking kids, where can you sit right now that you will feel safe and calm and still be able to continue throughout your day? They might choose their own desk. They might choose the small group table. They might choose, a little area here behind the anchor chart just because they don't want anyone to see them in that moment. Okay. Now, I do have some opinions about having safe places within your classroom. But just because a few years ago, my old building, my classroom was destroyed multiple times by angry, dysregulated students, and I had a lot of things destroyed. So when I came into my new school building 2 years ago, I just decided I was going to be very low key in my decor, not decorate as much, not have as much. I do have a very clean, organized classroom this year where things, if they get destroyed, it's not super hard to clean up. So I don't exactly have a safe place anymore. Now, if that is something that my school building decided that we needed to have, of course, we could put one back into my classroom. But anyways, that's a soapbox for another day. Okay. So now, conscious discipline, we focus on rituals, basically. Morning greetings, eye contact, small moments that help kids feel safe and valued. And this approach teaches students to manage themselves, handle conflict, and have a sense of belonging. Okay. And a lot of this goes into having a dual language classroom. We want students to feel safe. We want them to greet people around them daily. We want them to have eye contact when they talk to each other. We want them to voice their emotion. Any opportunity that they have to speak, and giving them those emotions in both languages is an amazing learning opportunity. So when my students regulate as a class, I will give them a star in the jar. Okay, so if they regulate in any way as a class, or if we've had a class meeting or a class misunderstanding, and there's a time where we've come together and figured out a solution to a big, big problem, they get a star in the jar. And then when we get to 15, we'll have some sort of classroom part. The first classroom party we had was a pajama day. It could be things like extra recess or everybody brings the stuff to school or a dance party, anything like that. So basically, again, when my students regulate together as a class, because teamwork is so important, we are a classroom family. When I notice that my students are regulating well and working well together as a classroom family, I verbally will recognize that. And then that visual of the star in the jar, for being able to work together as a class community. That's just kind of an incentive because there are going to be students who can't handle that. And I don't want to feel like I didn't, do anything to create that classroom culture. So that's how I integrate PBIS, second steps, zones of regulation, love and logic, and conscious discipline in my classroom. Each approach brings something unique into the learning environments. Now, my students don't know about love and logic. My students don't know about conscious discipline. Those are just kind of the way I operate in my classroom daily. And it's a routine and it's a habit. It's the same routine and habit that I use at home with my own kids. So all of those work together because not one approach is going to work for every single student. Okay. Now there are some students who are on individual, learning plans or have IEPs, or have emotional check-ins for, counseling, those types of things. Those are worked on an individual basis. Those have nothing to do with the whole group, of course. But they keep our students kind, resilient, and just emotionally aware. If I were only doing PBIS, I don't think I could be happy in my classroom. I don't think PBIS is the only way that we can teach students to show expected and feel comfortable voicing their emotions throughout the day. PBIS does not allow students to voice their emotions. It doesn't teach them how to handle or regulate themselves. It just basically rewards them for showing expected. So if you are only using PBIS, that's definitely not going to work. So okay, now I will say it is so easy to just try to focus on the positive all the time that I didn't even talk to you about consequences. So excuse me for that, okay? Now, consequences. Of course, sometimes there has to be consequences within the classroom. Um, I always start with just a verbal reminder, a verbal warning when a student is not being safe, responsible, kind, or engaged. And I will refer them back to either a zone that they need to be in, or model the expected behavior. So if that doesn't work, when I am not teaching whole group, I will meet with that student to reflect on their choices after the behavior issue. I will invite them, to meet with me for a few minutes to talk about what happened and how did it make others feel and what could we do differently next time. This approach helps the students process their behavior by also being aware that the behavior they were showing was not expected and is their responsibility to change it. Now, for those students who continue to struggle with engagement and with being kind or safe with their bodies, maybe they've disrupted the classroom or hurt a peer's feelings, I might assign them a small task that is designed around helping others. Maybe organizing classroom materials, passing out supplies, assisting a peer with an activity. This teaches them empathy and it reinforces the idea that they are making up for their unkind actions in a positive, hands on way. And a lot of times, when you give students the opportunity to be kind, they are very willing to do it. Okay, now sometimes we need more than a conversation and more than a kind action. So we might need to repair a friendship or repair a relationship, with a classroom aide or even with myself, a teacher. So if a student has hurt someone's feelings by not showing expected, or they've been unkind to another teacher, a specials teacher, or even an aide, I will have them write or draw an apology note or an apology letter. This will allow them to add their personal touch to the apology. It makes it meaningful for both the giver and the receiver, and also encourages students to make amends, which is very important because giving closure to the student who was harmed and the student who did the harming is an important part of the healing process. Now, a lot of times when we get to step 3, when amends need to be made, or a friendship note or an apology note was written, that is when I will contact home about what happened. And we won't even really ask parents to, respond in any way. We just want them to know this is what happened at school today. This is what we worked on, and this is how we made amends. Kind of talk them through the process of what we did. Now, if it's a major issue, someone has hurt someone physically, they've destroyed a part of the classroom, or they've shown something unkind or unexpected, we have a referral chart that we use. It goes along with our PBIS. And there are probably a list of 20 different actions where we decide if that action was a minor report and it just needs a referral to kind of keep track or keep record. And then we have major referrals where it's also there for tracking purposes, but also the office staff is informed of that issue, and most of the time there is a follow-up. That student will follow up with the principal or the counselor and the parent on those types of issues. So I didn't want you to think that we only focus on the positive, because sometimes unexpected behaviors pop up and that is how I handle them. Now, of course, a lot of the way I handle unexpected behaviors is based around that PBIS system and deciding if that behavior needs more attention. But I also don't like to take away from my students' learning by taking a lot of time to focus on those negative behaviors. So if the verbal reminder doesn't work and ignoring doesn't work, then we take some other actionable steps. So hopefully that's helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment and let me know which one of these strategies you're using in your classroom, or if you need a book recommendation on how to get started using these in your classroom. I know that was kind of not very in-depth, but just an overview of what works for me. And like I said, I've been in education and the elementary level for 9 years. Before that, I did 12 years of early childhood education, and conscious discipline and love and logic, they really work. They really work. It is not one of those pendulum switches where it worked for 2 or 3 years, but now we're switching to something else. It has worked consistently for me, for my own children at home, and in my classroom for almost 20 years. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the topic. And don't forget to subscribe to see more classroom tips. And I will get back later this week, maybe, and record, kind of get you caught up about what we're doing in week 11 and 12 in the dual language classroom.